Expelled college students of Reddit. Why are you expelled? I went to a private Christian university, and I have a friend who got expelled for supposedly exorcising a demon out of someone in the middle of a wide open courtyard. I spent too much time drinking and not going to class. I was a junior with a 1.6 overall GPA. University said they didn't need my ilk around there and would open my spot for someone who would appreciate it. This got my attention. I went to the dean and talked with him for a couple of hours trying to get back in. He said no, 19 out of 20 of you guys go back to doing the same thing. I told him I would be the exception. He gave me another chance. From then on out it was 4.0 every semester. I finally got my GPA up over 2.5 so I could graduate. I made sure and went back to the dean's office to thank him and tell him that I was that 1 out of 20 that made it. Installing Bitcoin miners on all the computers in a video editing lab. Our professor explicitly warned us not to run Bitcoin miners on our university's high-performance cluster as that would get you expelled. I highly suspect someone did exactly that the semester before. For being off campus with a member of the opposite gender without proper supervision. No, seriously. I was making a search engine for our school teacher evaluation page. It absolutely blew up in popularity and a large portion of the school was using it, about 5k views per day. Essentially it was like Rate My Professors except it used the evals that they force students to do at the end of the class as data. I also added features that made it more desirable to students. It became so popular that it was showing up on the front page of Google for certain teacher names. Some of those teachers had low ratings and got mad and complained. I had unintentionally violated IP laws because the evaluations were under password protections and my site was not. The only reason I didn't get expelled was because the dean of my department had my back. He did research and concluded the information should not have been private in the first place, then sent a public information request to make it so my project did not break the law. I definitely had people asking for my expulsion for a scary amount of time. Heard this story of this dude who got kicked out for leaving on break to train with Al Qaeda. Never heard of that internship. Expelled because my GPA dropped below the competitive level for the engineering school at my college. I was given the option of transferring to a different school. They recommended I go into the humanities or be expelled. Well, thankfully I had a job from the previous summer that was willing to hire me on full-time before this happened. So I took the expulsion and went to work full-time. Since then, I've gotten my certifications and work in the trades doing fairly well for myself. So, yay. I had a friend who skipped all classes and failed everything because all he wanted to do was play LOL. He got a warning that if he didn't get his grades up he would be suspended for a year. He got suspended. When he went back to the school a year later the same thing happened again. Now he can't go back to that college again. My freshman class, 2007, was the first to have more dropouts due to WoW than to drugs. And it wasn't because drug use was down. Wasn't expelled but dang near. Junior year I took an elective class called Reading Fiction. Cool class but the teacher was extremely strict and took the class very serious. I'm alright at writing papers, and this class involved heavy writing about writing techniques, symbolism, foreshadowing, ect. We were assigned to read a book that I can't remember the name but I wasn't into it at all. I struggled to finish it and struggled even more to write a detailed paper on it. I slammed out the minimal page requirement and sources needed. It was not my best work but it was serviceable. I get an email from the teacher a few days later saying he would like me to come into his office hours. He accused me of plagiarizing certain segments of my paper, which I did not, and was ready to send my case to the dean. Apparently some things I sourced in my paper were done incorrectly which led him to believe I straight copy and pasted from the internet. The second hour of office time was him passive aggressively calling me an idiot. Currently I'm aware of a group of international students getting expelled from my school. They've been whispering to each other during exams in another language, and as luck would have it my professor happens to speak that language and has been slowly building a case against them without their knowing it. The kids somehow also got the solutions to every homework and exam last semester which is very similar to what we've been assigned this semester. However, the kids are so freaking lazy they blindly copy whole solutions, not realizing numbers are different. Sometimes units are metric and they answer in English, and one problem asked for something completely different than they solved for using the exact procedure to solve last semester's homework. They're absolutely fricked and I'm kinda excited to see it. One of them had a 3.75 GPA, was on the verge of being auto-admitted to our MSBS program. He's probably been cheating his whole college career. We're 2 semesters away from graduation. Plot twist, the advisor to that program is the instructor that is currently building the case against them. So basically that guy is mega fricked. Professor is a savage. He's been grading all their homework and exams like everything was fine, and one day unleashed a dossier of B justice to comb. I'm bipolar, rocked college and got straight A's while I was manic as crap, sleeping 3 hours a night for several years, drinking, drugs, partying and all that. Then I curled up in a dark hole and cried for several months and couldn't even hardly wake up enough to go to any of my classes. Got academic probation and told my advisors I had no idea what was happening to me. This wasn't the real me. Managed to pull off another year of straight A's and little to no sleep. Then I crashed again and did nothing but sleep for months on end, wanting nothing more from life than for it to end as soon as possible, please. By my own hand if necessary. This time I got kicked out completely. Fast forward a few more years of the mania depression cycles and it eventually got so bad that I stole a car while manic and drove 800 miles across the US on some paranoid delusional insanity. I thought I was phasing between alternate realities and the government was going to try to capture me and study me to see how I was doing it. Don't ask. Luckily I ended up in the hospital instead of jail and I got diagnosed finally. Now I take a frick ton of medicine and I'm not quite so crazy anymore. The end. I was going to the Art Institute of Philadelphia, one of the few places I legitimately consider heck on earth. The school paired me up with various roommates who had severe issues, refusing to shower 6 months straight, hardcore drug addicts, a guy who openly fapped to pictures of dead bodies while I was still in the room. Nightmare fuel. The entire dorm was terrible. People were constantly kicking or punching body-sized holes into and through walls. Elevators would drop multiple floors when you were in them. It was a nightmare. And then, one winter, a fire alarm started going off every single freaking night around 2 AM and we'd have to evac the building into the dead of winter. Nothing quite wakes you up like fire alarms and freezing cold. I mentally started to lose it. My grades dropped, and I failed the semester because I could never sleep. Between the fire alarms and overwhelming funk I was getting extremely worn down and stressed. This continued on. One of the deans calls me in one day and accuses me of credit card theft. According to the school, I had stolen a credit card from one of my roommates and racked up a massive bill at Lane Bryant and they had proof. Lane Bryant, which I didn't know at the time, was a women's clothing store that specializes in plus size apparel. It was implied I was buying these for my girlfriend, but I had to point out to the school that I was gay. They changed their story to the fact that I must have been buying them for myself, implying I was a cross-dresser. I kind of lost my crap and asked them to provide any shred of proof to back up their claims. They had none, but proceeded to harass me about this crap for weeks, demanding I pay back the money I never took or they'd have to escalate things. Then I ended up with a roommate who was caught growing drugs, shrooms, in my closet. He got caught, but the school decided that chaperoning the guy was not their responsibility, and the guy ended up stealing half my crap. To which the school was like, did you have insurance? No? Haha, not our problem. Please get out of my office. After that everything tanked. The stress piled on, and the plurality of crappiness that exuded from the school got to me and I failed out. As I said, I was able to appeal, get back in and later graduate. This school was an absolute nightmare. I had a particularly rough semester and got D in a class that I had previously dropped after about a week the prior semester because my schedule was too busy then. Department rules say that you can't attempt a class for credit more than twice, including drops, so I got kicked out of my major. I was 14 hours away from graduation at the time. The academic advisor said that I could either change my major, so basically start college all over, or frick off for a year and then come back on probation. So I guess I'm not expelled per se, but I'm taking an involuntary gap year. I went to college right after high school and didn't really have direction as to what I wanted to pursue for a career. I signed up for classes and went because I was told you are supposed to go to college and get a degree. I started to not care about school about 3-4 semesters in and stopped putting forth effort. I decided I would rather work my job, drink with friends, and play my favorite video games. My grades tanked, and then I stopped going to finals and failed many courses. My university finally gave me a warning and then dismissed me. I spent a semester off before applying to the local community college down the road to pursue a career as an EMT. I found a passion for medicine and a desire to achieve something more than drugs, video games, and a dead-end job. I repaired my GPA by getting an associate's degree in arts, general AA, and then went back to the university that dismissed me. I eventually would graduate with a bachelor's degree in biochemistry and go on to medical school afterwards, where I would finish that chapter and start my residency training in family medicine. I'm almost done with intern year. I shot a firework out of my ass in a campus-owned house. I got expelled in 2004 for inciting a riot. When I was in college, I got suspended 3 times for bad grades. At one point my GPA was a 1.0. I finally got it together and graduated with a degree in finance, and a few years later went back and got a second bachelor's in accounting. I think my GPA is a 3.2 now. I'm not working in finance or accounting because I can't find a job. I mostly just hate my life now and wish for death. That took a left turn. Apparently you can get kicked out for not showing up to class and failing everything. Who knew? I knew a guy who got expelled from an Ivy League for getting caught with too much coke. He works at California Pizza Kitchen now. Freshman year of engineering and I was all of 3 months in. I had invited the Ra over to play some Halo. As he walked through the hall, he noticed my dorm neighbor had his door open with beer cans everywhere. He shakes his head and reluctantly tells me he can't game and has to write this guy up. The night after, I wake up to a loud knock on my door. Thinking it's some prankster, I mumbled, "Frick off, I'm sleeping." I then hear my Ra's voice me, "It's no joke, open up." Adrenaline kicks in and I bolt out of bed. It's the Ra with 2 security guards. I was told that they were notified I had made dangerous sounding comments and had to search my room. They found a disassembled airsoft gun, battery plus spring, that I was, well, taking apart, a length of rope, and a standard toolbox, and an electronics kit. This is where it got horrible. The length of rope was wrapped neatly around a water pipe in my room. It was black and purple and my GF at the time was way into bondage and I was too lazy to put it away. Note, I was just storing it on the pipe, not hanging someone from it. The security officers claimed it looked like a noose, despite no knots. The electronics kit, they said, looked like bomb parts, to which I gave them the exact name of the professor who was helping me with my project. They also took several of my tools from my toolbox. I was immediately marched to the security office and at 2 AM had to wait for my parents to pick me up. Talk about the worst car ride ever back home. I had no idea what had happened and I wanted to just throw myself out of the car. A day later we went back to talk to the administration. It was recognized that I was thrown under the bus, but that was the extent of any sympathy given. I was faced with a full semester suspension or leave and have any judicial record sealed. I chose the latter. That day, in front of half the dorm, my parents and I packed up the car and left. I was able to apply and get into a different school for the spring semester, though without the $35K scholarship I had previously received. But now I'm an employed civil engineer and life's been going pretty well. I was a friendless loser in high school and middle school, so I was very sensitive when I could tell someone else was bullied. There was a kid in my Spanish class who clearly had some autistic Asperger's stuff going on. He would ask really inappropriate questions, and everyone made fun of him, laughed at him, rolled their eyes at him, even the teacher. I felt bad for him. I asked him to work with me on a project and I invited him to my dorm room. My roommate and his friends happened to be there and were smoking before heading out. He gets all perturbed and I end up doing all of the work and letting him take credit because I felt bad. he decides to immediately go to campus security and report me for allowing illegal activities to go on. Me and my roommate and his friends all get arrested and taken away in cuffs and shackles in front of the entire student body. I then had to leave school, and my family never recovered from the whole thing. My mother recently passed away, and this incident hurt our relationship for the remainder of her life. I was forced to take NA classes and they asked me to leave since I'd never done any drugs or drank before college, and I was still in my first year. They just auto-passed me and expunged my record. At least, I was in classes with people who had scars all over their bodies, arms ruined by drug injections, people who had problems with self-mutilation and other kinds of abuse, and I was some 18-year-old goody two-shoes nerd kid. I ended up having to spend a few months in a psych ward as well, since this incident made me suicidal since I lost my friends, my family, and my future. One mistake and it completely altered the course of my life. I was trying to help you and you fricked me. Because of what this kid did, I never go out of my way to help anyone who is bullied, and I instantly assume they fricking deserve it now. I lost all the friends I'd made in college too. I am completely friendless again, and have severe trust issues. I was expelled back in my 4th year of college. I've dealt with social anxiety since childhood and it came to a head in my 3rd year when I was having panic attacks frequently. I got help but by then it was too late for my grades because I had been barely passing classes by the skin of my teeth. I was a 4th year Comp C major who didn't know how to program at all. I tried to get back on the horse after going through therapy for my anxiety, but I felt so defeated that my grades slipped further into the hole I had dug for myself. I think the quarter I got kicked out I had 2 Fs, 2 Ds and a C. The dean sent me a letter saying I was done with engineering. I took time to get my act together, got a part-time job, lived in a crap hole apartment with 7 people living in a space meant for 4 people at the absolute maximum. I worked minimum wage and realized I needed to finish school. I saw my undergrad counselor numerous times, who very graciously helped me. I needed to write out a contract addressed to the dean with my detailed plan on how I was going to prove I was worthy of being readmitted, and the classes I would take to qualify for graduation. It took a while but I eventually managed to get readmitted by working my ass off, taking summer school courses which counted toward my major and getting a 3.0 average, then following up by getting good grades once they let me back in. It was tough because I needed therapy for so many years but I didn't want to accept it until my breakdown in my 3rd year. I wish I had gotten help sooner but I truly thought I could handle it all on my own and I felt ashamed that I wasn't able to. But I'll say this, I don't regret for a second that I ended up getting help. I was a little embarrassed about it first but I soon got over that. I still have some days where anxiety is in the back of my mind, but I'm a lot better now, and I graduated. If you're struggling in school, just know that even if you get kicked out that doesn't mean it's the end for you if you honestly want to finish. Not me, but a guy who lived on the floor below me my freshman year. Dude was already a nuisance. He got drunk and wandered into town one night, broke a window on a private residence because he thought it was our dorm, got arrested for breaking said window. When the school found out they told him that if you got into any trouble either with the police or the school's internal justice system, which is actually decent, it's student run, then he would be thrown out. Same goes for getting transported to the local hospital due to excessive drunkenness. Cut to Halloween night when his roommate found him passed out covered in vomit on the floor of his dorm room. He tested positive for alcohol, marijuana, and coke. I'm pretty sure he was kicked out before he got out of the hospital. Personally knew a bright individual that was kicked out of a prestigious university for skipping too many classes. He showed up for the important classes, got A's on all of the tests, but due to the fact that he had missed too many classes, he failed all of them. Must not have read that page of the handbook. He now works at the local grocery store and I see him when I come home on breaks. You have been visited by the Be Humble, Be Stay Humble and Believe in Yourself. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check out another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.